That ringing in your ears is not a failure of the body. It's not a coincidence. What you're hearing is a call from the soul that many ignore and few are willing to accept. Because when the soul begins to whisper to you, it doesn't use words. It speaks through vibrations. And that sound, that tone that appears in silence, is not interference from the outside world. It's a signal from the inner world. Maybe you felt it while meditating, while alone, or right before falling asleep. Perhaps it came suddenly, or maybe it's been with you for a while. But one thing is certain, you're not here by chance. The universe doesn't play games with confusion. Everything that happens in your energetic body has a reason, a higher cause. And that buzzing that visits you without an apparent explanation could be proof that you're more connected than you think. Many ignore it. Others think it's just a physical symptom. But you've felt it differently. You've sensed that there's something more behind it, something you can't explain, but that you feel deeply within your soul. And that intuition, that inner feeling burning inside, is exactly what brought you here. Stay until the end of this message, because today we will walk together across an invisible bridge, the one that connects sound and soul. I will reveal what that buzzing means on a spiritual level, how to tell if it's a gift awakening within you, a divine warning, or a direct message from your soul asking for attention. This isn't theory, it's living experience. And by the end, you may discover that this sound is a key to awaken something dormant within you. So take a deep breath, open your mind, and most importantly, listen with your heart. Because what you're about to remember already lives within you. This isn't just a video, it's a portal. And if your soul brought you here, it's because you're ready. For years, many have believed that ear ringing is simply a body malfunction, a failure of the auditory system, just another symptom in a medical diagnosis called tinnitus. But what if I told you that what you're hearing isn't a mistake, but a sign? From a spiritual perspective, that ringing is nothing more than a vibration, a frequency that manifests when certain subtle perception centers are being activated. It's as if your soul is ringing an invisible bell to say, "You're waking up. Pay attention." Not everyone feels it, but those who have begun an inner path, those who are closer to their spiritual truth, often notice it at very specific moments. While meditating, after deep prayer, or while in solitude, connected to nature. Those moments of silence are not empty. They are open channels. And that channel can transmit sounds that don't come from the physical world, but from the spiritual field. The buzzing then becomes a tuning signal, a kind of vibrational alignment that shows your energetic body is syncing with higher frequencies. Now, it's important to distinguish between a physiological problem and a spiritual sign. Clinical tinnitus is usually constant, bothersome, and linked to hearing damage or physical tension. But the buzzing we're talking about here is different. It appears and disappears without any medical cause, often when you're entering a higher state of consciousness. You might feel it in one ear, both, or moving from one side to the other, as if guiding your attention inward. It doesn't come from the environment. It comes from the soul. It's an activation, not a failure, a vibrational awakening. And if you're hearing it now, or have felt it before, it's possible you're entering a new stage in your spiritual evolution. Listen with respect. Don't fight the sound. Integrate it. Because maybe it's not about turning it off, but understanding the message it carries. Has it ever happened to you during meditation or when thinking deeply? Write it in the comments. What you felt makes more sense than you think. There are sounds the human ear can't clearly pick up, but the soul instantly recognizes. Spiritual buzzing isn't just random noise. It's vibrational language, a way the spirit communicates when it can no longer speak with words. Each time you hear it, something inside you responds, even if your mind doesn't understand the message, because it's not designed for your logic, but for your frequency. It's an invisible code whispering to you, you're connected. You're sensing what can't be seen. This sound doesn't travel through air. It travels through the subtle field. Many people who experience it describe it more as an inner sensation than an auditory one. It's as if the sound doesn't come from outside, but from within, like an echo vibrating in your bones, in your chest, in your very soul. In some cases, it appears right as you enter elevated states of consciousness, during deep meditation, intense prayer, or a moment of spiritual revelation. In that space, when everything is silent, the soul speaks. From the perspective of energetic physics, much has been said about the interaction between the electromagnetic fields of the human body and the frequencies that surround us. We live immersed in a sea of energy, and our body is a living antenna. When your consciousness rises, you tune into more subtle dimensional levels. And that's when you begin to hear things that don't belong to this dense reality. It's not hallucination. It's expanded perception. It's your energy system opening to the language of the invisible. I've met people who, after going through a near-death experience or a spiritual awakening, began to hear these kinds of sounds more frequently. A woman once told me that during a meditation, she felt her ear opening like a flower, and since then, every time she meditates, a soft ringing accompanies her, as if a guide were present. Another man said that the buzzing came just before making a key decision in his life, as if it were confirming he was on the right path. Neither of them was ever the same again, because when the soul speaks through sound, life stops being just noise and starts becoming a message. If you've ever heard that buzzing during a deep moment, share it in the comments. Your story might resonate with someone who is also awakening. Not all spiritual buzzings sound the same, and not all mean the same thing. Just as every soul vibrates at its own frequency, the auditory signs from the spiritual plane also take different forms depending on what you need to experience, learn, or remember. There are three main types of buzzing, recognized by those who have developed heightened sensitivity: high-pitched, low-pitched, and rhythmic. Each one, like different notes in the soul's symphony, carries a specific message from the invisible world. The high-pitched buzz, sharp, clear, and penetrating, often appears when you are undergoing an intense spiritual opening. It's a sign of channeling. Many feel it right before receiving an intuitive download, a vision, or an inner revelation. It's like the soul is tuning in to listen better. This sharp sound, almost like a subtle chime, announces that your perception is opening, that you are entering an expanded state of consciousness. In some people, this happens just before receiving a message during meditation or sleep. It's the threshold to an open portal. The low-pitched buzz, on the other hand, has a deeper, denser tone. Sometimes it's persistent, other times intermittent. But its presence is almost always accompanied by a bodily sensation, goosebumps, pressure in the chest, or a sudden call for attention. This type of sound can be an energetic warning, a way the soul tells you there's a nearby presence, or that you need to protect your energy field. It might be a dense energy or even a heads up to correct your path. Listen to your intuition. The low tone always comes with a message of caution. And then there's the rhythmic buzz, like a pulse or energetic ticking that seems to follow a pattern. This type of sound is fascinating. It's a form of synchronization with your spiritual guides or with the cycles of your soul. It often appears when you're making decisions aligned with your purpose, like a sign that you're walking in the right direction. This buzz accompanies those who've already learned to flow with the rhythm of the universe. Hearing these sounds is not a burden, it's a privilege, because not everyone hears what comes from the soul, but you do. Help us bring this message to more people. Subscribe, like, and tell us what spiritual signs you've experienced. Your experience may awaken someone else. There are moments in life that seem frozen in time, silences that aren't empty, but portals. And in those moments, the buzzing appears. Maybe you noticed it upon waking from a powerful dream, or just as you were about to make an important decision. The environment is still. There's no outside noise. But then something vibrates within you, a sharp or deep sound that comes from nowhere, as if the universe were breathing near your ear. That moment, even if you ignore it, has a purpose. It's no coincidence, it's a sign. These signals don't arrive when you're distracted by routine or when your mind is overwhelmed with mundane thoughts. They come when you're calm, when you pause for a moment, breathe, and open to the present. That's when the soul can speak. The buzzing often aligns with moments of high spiritual sensitivity. When you're reflecting on your purpose, feeling gratitude, recognizing a truth, or facing a deep dilemma. And it also appears when you're about to take a leap, either toward your purpose or away from it. Have you felt it just before doing something you deep down knew wasn't right? Or maybe when you decided to follow a hunch that changed your life? The soul uses this sound as a subtle compass. When you move closer to your truth, it intensifies. When you drift away, it intensifies too. It's the soul's way of saying, pay attention. Something important is about to happen, and even if it seems small, every occurrence of the buzzing has a reason. It's aligned with your steps, your thoughts, and your choices. You're not imagining things. You're connecting to a deeper web of wisdom. Sometimes that connection shows up as visions, other times as sudden emotions, but in many cases, it manifests through sound. It's a delicate yet powerful way your soul has of intervening without invading, of speaking without disturbing, of guiding you without forcing. And when you open yourself to listen, you realize you were never alone. You just needed to turn down the volume of the world to hear the message of the Spirit. If it has happened to you right before making an important decision, write about it in the comments. You're connecting to something greater. The first thing you must know when you hear that ringing in your ears is this: don't fall into fear. Step into awareness. Many people get scared the first time they feel it. They think something's wrong with their body or their mind, but fear is a veil, a wall that blocks true spiritual connection. What you need to do in that moment is stop and breathe, because when the soul speaks, it doesn't come to confuse you, but to awaken you. The ringing isn't a threat, it's an open door, and you choose whether to walk through it or ignore it. The key is to tune in to the message. One of the most effective ways to do this is through conscious breathing. Bring your attention to the air flowing in and out of your nose. Feel how each inhalation clears your energetic field and each exhalation grounds you in the present moment. Once you're calm, ask internally, what is this sound trying to tell me? What do I need to know right now? Then remain silent. Don't expect a logical answer. Intuition will speak in images, sensations, or even words that rise up without you thinking them. Another powerful technique is visualization. When you hear the ringing, imagine yourself inside a sphere of light where everything that happens has divine purpose. Visualize the sound turning into waves that touch your cells, your thoughts, your soul. Let yourself be enveloped. Don't fight the experience. Love it, because it is a sacred language that belongs to you. Even more, use the ringing as a spiritual compass. Ask yourself, what was I feeling before it appeared? What was I thinking? What decision was I considering? The ringing is a response, not a question. If it shows up when you're about to take a major step, see it as confirmation or as a warning. If it appears when you're calm, maybe it's a reminder that you're in alignment. Learn to record those moments. Write them down. Keep a vibrational journal. Over time, you'll start to notice patterns that show you're not crazy. You're awakening, because in the end, when you learn to hear that sound with your soul, the world stops speaking in noise and starts speaking in truth. There comes a moment when that ringing stops being a mystery and starts becoming a guide. At first, it can be confusing, but over time, and especially with conscious presence, many people discover that the sound is not just there to be heard, but to be interpreted. It's like learning a new language. At first, you only hear noise. Then you start to notice it appears in specific moments. Eventually, you realize it's a message, and that message can change your path. I've met people who, after months of hearing it without understanding, began to notice that the ringing appeared before meaningful encounters, just before receiving important news, or during moments of deep intuition. One woman told me that whenever she had doubts about a life decision and the ringing came from the left side, she knew to stop, reflect, and not rush. Another man shared that when the ringing came from the right side, he felt it as a push forward, as if something was confirming that he was aligned with his purpose. The secret lies in translating that frequency into conscious action. If you feel it, pause and write down what you're thinking or feeling. Do it in the moment. Don't postpone it. Often, when you write, your soul begins to reveal what your mind couldn't organize. Other times, simply closing your eyes and letting your intuition speak is enough. The ringing is like a spiritual alarm, not to scare you, but to help you focus. Sometimes it's a subtle warning, other times a call for clarity. This isn't superstition, it's spiritual sensitivity. And like any gift, it can be trained. The more you listen without fear, the more you understand. The more you integrate it, the more you learn to read it. Sensitivity is not a burden. It's a spiritual radar that, when finely tuned, allows you to detect the invisible. What many don't perceive, you can feel, not to show off, but to guide yourself, to protect yourself, and in some cases, to help others find their own guidance. When the ringing becomes your compass, you no longer walk in darkness. Because even when everything outside is silent, you know the soul is always speaking. If there's one thing you must remember right now, it's this: you are not alone. Even if you felt misunderstood, isolated, or confused by what you perceive, there are thousands of souls like yours awakening at the same time. And that ringing, echoing inside you is no accident. It's one of many signs that something far greater is unfolding. A silent, yet powerful transformation. A collective activation guiding many to remember who they are, why they're here, and what part of the truth they've come to uphold. In recent years, more and more people report the same symptoms: unexplained ringing in the ears, pressure on the forehead, intense dreams, extreme sensitivity, a need for silence, deep emotional shifts. Do you really think it's coincidence? Or is it that you're tuning into a higher frequency that's emerging across the planet? This awakening is not exclusive, it's shared. And though the process feels individual, it's really part of a greater spiritual fabric vibrating in unison. The ringing is not a physical symptom to be feared, it's a spiritual signal to be honored. Your soul is responding to a call. You're perceiving waves from a subtler dimension that were once dormant to you. And now, like an instrument being tuned, you begin to vibrate differently. What you couldn't hear yesterday now passes through you. What you once ignored now moves you. And that shift, that change, is your activation. You're not losing your mind. You're reconnecting with your essence. That part of you that knows we are energy, that everything communicates, and that the universe doesn't leave signs at random. Millions are going through the same thing, but they stay silent out of fear of being judged. Today, I invite you to break that silence. Embrace your experience as part of something greater than yourself. Recognize that this ringing is a collective calling of the human soul to its truth. Throughout this journey, you've discovered that the ringing in your ears is not a coincidence, not a mistake, not a bodily glitch. It's something much greater, much more sacred. It's the invisible mark of those who came to hear what others cannot. On the spiritual path, there are souls who don't just feel, they perceive. Who don't just live, they translate the invisible. They are the called listeners, souls who channel subtle vibrations and transform energy into understanding, into guidance, into living word. The ringing is a sign that you are one of those souls. Maybe you don't fully know it yet, or maybe it's hard to believe. But if you're here, if you felt resonance in every word, it's because you carry that gift within you. Some come into the world to see the unseen, others to heal with their hands. And there are those who came to hear the language of spirit, to pick up the frequencies the world does not understand. And you might be one of them, because the soul doesn't send you signs unless you're ready to receive them. This sound that so many ignore or fear is your confirmation. It's not noise. It's not a nuisance to eliminate. It's a message. It's your spirit speaking to you in its purest language, vibration. And every time you hear it, remember this: you are being called not to look outside, but to return within, to trust your sensitivity, to understand that divine connection doesn't always come in visions. Sometimes it comes as an inner whisper, a tone, an echo, only the awakened can perceive. Maybe your whole life you felt out of place for hearing what others do not. But today, you know you're not alone. That ringing is not a sign of weakness. It's a gift waiting to be recognized. Use it to guide yourself. Use it to help others. Because if you can hear the soul, you can remind others how to return to theirs. Write in the comments what part of this message resonated with you. Maybe by sharing it, you'll spark the awakening of another soul.